Hare Krishna. 3.31. Ye me matam idam nityam anutishtanti manavaha Shraddhavanto anasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi. Translation. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So what is this instruction? Which is we discussed in the previous verse. Surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So Krishna is saying that those who execute according to my injunctions that were given and who follow this teaching faithfully. Faithfully means even if there is difficulty in following, they'll follow it. Without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception. So, in spite of whatever situation, difficulties, etc., these things have to be followed. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. We are trying to envy the Lord because we are trying to become proprietors. So if we stop envying the Lord, and we then, without envying the Lord, then we'll have firm faith in this, and we should have firm faith in this injunction. We should try to follow whatever Krishna is saying. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of love karma. Now, even though unable to execute means not that he is not willing to execute. He is willing to execute, but he is not able to execute. So even then, one becomes liberated. So the point is that here we should, even though it might look difficult, surrendering everything to Krishna, no sense of proprietorship and this and that and all that, we should try. We should try. It is difficult, but we should try. Because even if we sincerely try, even if we are unable to execute the order, still we'll get the mercy of the Lord. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Yeah, this is what I was saying. So one might not be fully able to discharge the injunctions, but because one is not resentful, that means he doesn't dislike it. Or he is not saying, okay, I don't want to do. And also he works sincerely and without consideration of defeat or hopelessness. Sometimes, it becomes like so difficult. We're just not able to follow, but still we should sincerely try. If we sincerely try, then we will get promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. So this is very important, that whatever injunctions Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, that is the reason we should make notes and make a list of all instructions that Krishna has given and try one by one to incorporate those in our life. And then there also we should have some priority order. Priority in the sense, okay, what I can easily incorporate. Okay, maybe let me first from easy ones. We finish this. Okay, incorporate this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one by one we should try. Sincerely, even if you are not able to, even if you are failing, it's okay. Doesn't matter. Because if you sincerely try, we'll be promoted. Prabhupada is saying, sure to be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Okay. 3.32. ये त्वएतद् अभ्यसूयन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतं सर्वज्ञानविमूढां स्थान् विद्धि नष्टान् अचेतसः. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly. Krishna is not saying do not, Prabhupada is not translated it as do not follow them. He is saying do not follow them regularly. Are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So even if we are following it, but we are not following it regularly, then we will still not succeed. So we should regularly follow. That is why Srila Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha Nishchaya Dhairya. Should be enthusiastic all the time. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the Personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. Yeah, so we should be obedient. Disciple means obedience. So if we are obedient and we strictly try to follow whatever has been told to us by authorities, then we are okay. And we should try to also follow it regularly. So we should try. And like Prabhupada is saying in the last verse, maybe we are trying, but we are sincerely trying, but we are not able to follow, no issues. Over a period of time, we will learn to follow. But if we are not sincere, then that's a problem. So we should be sincere. Even if it is difficult to follow, we should be sincere and we should sincerely try. That is the whole point. (3.33) Sadasham chestate swasya prakritirnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he is acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? So Krishna is saying that you cannot artificially repress, like control. You can't artificially simply control. It won't work because by nature, the modes of nature, the nature we have acquired, we will still act. Even a man of knowledge acts, which means that he knows. Okay, I'm under the control of modes of nature. All that he knows. But still he cannot control. He will have to act. That is why Krishna tells Arjuna, saying that you will anyway going to fight because you are a Kshatriya. You better fight under my instruction. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of nature. But Krishna says in the second chapter, Trigunya Vishaveda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjana. Prabhupada is saying now, saying this Nistraigunya is not possible unless one actually comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. So that is why Gnana without Vijnana is practically useless. Prabhupada used to call that armchair philosophy. That means that you'll simply sit in a rocking chair and just blah, 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 but no action. That is why Prabhupada called devotion as devotional service. Because this is not about theoretical knowledge, it is actually practical knowledge by applying whatever we learned in theory in practice. Only then we can get out of the entanglement of Maya. Otherwise, if you are simply theoretical, Maya will still attack because we don't have the strength to, uh, pose her or overcome her influence. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly poses in advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under the modes of material nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. This we know. In fact, more and more one is read, the more he is in the hold of material nature. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of material entanglement. Even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Prabhupada is saying that one might be engaged in prescribed duties, but still, even if he is engaged, Krishna consciousness helps him to get out of material entanglement. Not just for people who are not doing prescribed duties. Even people who are doing prescribed duties can get out of material entanglement. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. This is very important. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and to try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. One should not give up his occupational duties whimsically, Prabhupada says elsewhere. Whimsically means just without proper consideration, and this giving up business should anyway be done under superior order, not by our own decision. So one should not suddenly give up. Prabhupada is clear. He is saying one should give up, but not suddenly, gradually, and under superior guidance, training. But unfortunately, devotees don't think about giving up only. Should give up. Okay. 3.34. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषो व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमः गच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. To regulate attachment and aversion, basically do's and don'ts pertaining to senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion. Because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. So raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. There are principles to regulate this attachment and aversion, but one should, however, not come under the control of such attachment and aversion. So, example, somebody wants to eat meat, Shastra says, okay, to regulate this meat eating, which you are attached to, you can do it whatever once in so many days, under this, follow this process, etc., etc. Now, the idea is to actually, over a period of time, create detachment from that. But one should not come under the control of that attachment. that attachment to eat, one should not come under the control of that attachment, because then that will become stumbling block. So even by so previously what happened, people were following using whatever Vedic regulations. Then they became so attached to that they started digressing or not following the prescribed rules. And then slaughterhouses came. Then pretty much people are eating no meat every day. This is the result of being attached to something and trying to regulate it by some rules. At being attached to meat eating, trying to regulate it by saying, okay, it has to be eaten only once in so many days, etc., etc. One gives up those principles, those rules, because of over attachment. Because when they become too attached, they don't care for any rules. Krishna is saying that it's not good to come under the control of that. So basically, that raga and dvesha, we have to be very careful. We should be away from them. Not that we are just not worried about regulating them. Actually, we should try and completely avoid them, because otherwise they become stumbling blocks. But yeah, you cannot do it artificially, so it has to be done through Krishna consciousness. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification, but those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement, but to one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, a sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed. Otherwise, they will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. So that is the whole point. We should not rely upon the control. We should not think that, okay, since the control is anyway there, it is okay for me to, be attached to something. No, because then we will end up overriding the rule. One has to follow these rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. As much as there is always the chance of an accident even on the royal roads. Although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time, owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness, or acting always in the loving service of Krishna, detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Pretty clear. The whole point here is that we should not come under the control of attachment and aversion. That is the whole point. Even if there are principles to regulate them, if we get to become too attached to that attachment and aversion, we end up falling down. That is the whole point. Okay. 3.35. श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुत्थितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. For to follow another's path is dangerous. One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Materially prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition under the spell of modes of material nature, basically varnashrama. Spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But whether material or spiritual, one should stick to his prescribed duties even up to death rather than imitate another's prescribed duties. This is very important. We should first of all know our nature. According to our nature, Purusha Dharma, we have to find out what type of vritti we will do. So we should continue that up to till we move to Vanaprastha. Then we follow Vanaprastha until we move to sannyas, or we follow Vanaprastha up to death. But this has to be followed. But we don't imitate somebody else. Like, when we are in Vanaprastha, we don't imitate a grahastha responsibility, or we don't simply imitate some sannyasi responsibilities, or when we are in Brahmana, we don't act like a Kshatriya, like that. Duties on the spiritual platform, duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. This is very important, right? So we should give up independent thinking in the sense that decision making independent of the guru. So if sometimes guru is saying something, even though our intelligence might consider that not optimal, or maybe there can be a better decision, all these things we think because we are so fallen. We think we are more intelligent than the guru. That's not good. So if guru says something, we should be ready to follow. That is why most disciples don't go to the guru asking for anything, because asking anything, saying what should I do? Because if guru says something which is against my desire, then I will not end up following. Then that is guru rabhagya. So that is why submission is very important, full submission. When one is under the spell of the modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for his particular situation and should not imitate others. Swadharma in conditioned state. For example, Brahmana, who is in mode of goodness, is non-violent, whereas a Kshatriya, who is in the mode of passion, is allowed to be violent. As such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the principles of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. So this gradual process is required, which means that it's not like we suddenly just today we are something, tomorrow we become something else. No. But at the same time, if we do Tivra Bhakti, then we can make tangible progress. We can achieve progress quickly. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of bona fide spiritual master. So even here, it is not, Prabhupada is not saying that you can perform anything and everything, full stop. No. Saying anything and everything under the direction of bona fide spiritual master. So when the Guru says, then it's say prasadat Bhagavad prasada. So you can close your eyes and perform. That needs to be done even when before we transcend also. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, the distinction of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana. Whereas Parashurama was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendently situated, they could do so. But as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that, we do our duty based on our prakriti, based on our guna karma. We continue our activities on the material platform. At the same time, we try to be a fully Krishna conscious. And in trying to do our duty, if we are Brahmana nature, but we are not having enough resources, etc., it's okay. Don't think that, okay, I should become a Vaishya so that I can earn more money and then I can give up my work quickly. All this is speculation. Right? So we should, if you are a Brahmana, if I'm not going to earn more money, that's fine. Still try to remain fully Krishna conscious. That is the whole point. So we should do our duty. But unfortunately, no, most of us don't know what our Varna is only. Anyways, Three Dharma we've discussed, it's pretty clear. But for Purusha Dharma, one has to be clear about Guna. Okay, so we'll stop here because this is discussion on lust, which will complete the next session. Okay, any questions, anybody?